Fuse's first showcase in that Aonuma Direct before the game came out made it look like a new physics engine thing, but it really isn't at all. Whether you attach a metal cage or a tumbleweed to your sword, they'll swing at the same rate. I like that it works that way, even though that physics-based version could have been cool, but what I didn't expect Fuse to end up being was a solution to Breath of the Wild's weapon breaking issue. Now, I hate the term, the weapon breaking issue, because there's so many levels to the durability mechanic. On one hand, some people didn't like their weapons breaking at all, but on the other, my hand, I didn't like how long it took for weapons to break and require me to think of a solution on the fly. In Breath of the Wild, by the time whatever my current weapon was broke, I already had an equal or better one to instantly stop time and switch to. In Tears of the Kingdom, they came up with the creative solution of making all the weapons really shitty, and make you fuse something to them in order to make them even remotely worthwhile. And this worked really well for me. For my first 100 hours of the game before I finished the main quest, I really enjoyed the slow progression of finding a unique, strong enemy, killing it with my lower to mid damage weapon, breaking a weapon or two in the entire encounter, and ending up with a strong new horn type having weapon to then beat enemies faster with. I especially enjoyed trying to fuse weapons mid-combat. Because fuse isn't done from a menu and you need to have the object on the ground near you to fuse it, it makes for some funny, memorable moments running around after a rolling horn with enemies chasing me as I go tumbling down a cliff with nothing but a wooden stick to my name. It's fun how this combat upgrade required this real-time world interaction. Especially what surprised me was how I found myself happily getting rid of weapons for new ones, unlike in Breath of the Wild where I was stingily holding on to crappy weapons that still had some use, because who knows if I'll have any good weapons from the next monster camp that I might not even want to fight, since my rare good weapon will probably break. In Tears of the Kingdom, I was happily throwing away weapons in favor of new ones because I knew every encounter, again for the general majority of that first playthrough, could have something new and interesting, whether it's a numbers-wise better weapon or a cool mechanical interaction with the Zonai devices. Now, I'll admit, this kind of went against itself by the endgame where I'm currently at in my playthrough. I reached a similar plateau of weapons in Tears of the Kingdom to that in Breath of the Wild where I kinda keep defaulting to whatever low damage weapon I find until the rare worthy enemy makes it break or gets me motivated to switch to my stash of really good ones. I'm unhappy about that, but with how unbalanced Breath of the Wild combat already was, I didn't genuinely expect this part to be perfect this time. But still, overall, the weapon breaking balance cycle of Tears of the Kingdom felt much fresher, got me to interact with the combat a lot more, and it's just really fun. So why didn't they finish adding it to the game? By the late game of Breath of the Wild, I was carrying 8 Royal Shields, 2 Royal Guard Shields, and 3 Lionel Shields, and some scrappier ones I kept for their looks. Yet before I even got to the final dungeon proper in Tears of the Kingdom, I already had the exact same filling inventory as the last game. I had Royal and Royal Guard Shields I was barely using, Lionel Shields I was absolutely never using because I knew they had the parry damage property, and whatever my current Zonai devices I had on Zonai Shields. They just did not make Fuse improve shield progression at all. And okay, sure. Part of this is the fact I don't really like using my shield. I like dodging and jumping and attacking and running, and all of those don't use the shield. But even when I get a brand new Royal Shield and try to, on recording, use it as much as possible, it still takes 25 minutes to break it, during which I broke and replaced about 4 melee weapons and also found another Royal Shield. Same exact thing with bows. I was mostly lugging around royal bows in Breath of the Wild, and the same exact thing happened in this game. My example footage isn't even different, it's just me playing the game in an area I haven't been to yet, trying my hardest to keep using the bow over and over until it finally broke after 25 minutes, while my melee weapons snap left and right. And again, I love that those melee weapons break faster now, and I wish all of combat followed that pace. So, let's make shields and bows just as fragile as swords became, because even though you can fuse stuff to shields to make interesting things like mushrooms for bouncy effect and the such, many fusions don't really do anything except render the shield unsurfable. But the all of our weapons decay and suck excuse can apply just as well to the shields. Link, a corrupting force, seemed to burn a hole in the middle of all the shields in Hyrule. They can still protect you somewhat, so they're worth keeping on your person, but beware, as they're nearly useless against monsters wielding a bow or a spear. Link, being the scrappy bastard he is, can stick anything he wants right in that hole, and it always fits, meaning it doesn't always make the shield impossible to surf on. Fusing an apple or another fruit into the shield's hole makes arrows hitting the shield get stuck, being a new convenient source of arrows in combat. Wooden shields did this in Breath of the Wild, so let's let every shield do that if a player wants. Fusing white or normal Chuchu Jelly can make the shield immune to fire even if it's made of wood, and fusing something stony, like a slab, can make it immune to shock and electricity. Fusing a Zonai device right in the middle doesn't even have to render the shield unsurf-worthy if somehow angled right and the Zonai device is reshaped to allow that option. Again, obviously this kind of change would carry more changes with it. And of course, make the shield break faster. Hey, you know how Link knocks away enemies' shields with heavy attack? Make enemies be able to do that for your unfused shields. If you get hit or maybe mess up a parry with a fuseless shield, the enemy can nudge their sword in the hole and snag it away. Better fuse your shield with some of those also arrow-catching monster guts you sure as hell weren't using to make elixirs with, or you're gonna be down before you can even see the enemy. Making the shields I already wasn't using that much or didn't feel like I needed to actively seek out, making them require my interaction with the fuse mechanic to make valuable has the potential to make them so much more integral to the combat breaking loop. And the exact same thing with bows. Link, hold it. I know you can handle yourself, but do look what happened to the bows at camp. They're withered and loose and creak in our hands. If only we could embalsam them to improve their steadiness, our defenses would stand much stronger. Your aim breathes more because of the unsturdiness of the decayed bow materials, so you should hop down to the fuse store and hook up some of those Moblin Fangs and Hyrule herbs you weren't using to tighten the grip back up, or hell, fuse a Lizalfo's tail as a new sharp string that grants your bow the quickshot modifier. You don't have to stop there. Fusing your bow with a ruby will make the trail of your arrow leave a small flame for a few shots before being drained of energy, or break alongside the bow, which didn't get much more durable from having just a gem on top of it. Fusing your bow with a boomerang will make its arrows do a teardrop-shaped arc towards its target and back to you. How does that make sense? It doesn't. Fuse different weapons to your bow to see all the weird, differently wizarding, arcing patterns they might make, like the weird zigzag arc that comes with the Forest Dwellers' weapons, and the Lionel weapons that make Link aim for the sky, granting those perfect airdrop precision strike the Lionels use at a distance. This doesn't need to conflict with the pretty good way arrow fusing works, where right as you're charging the arrow back, you pick what thing to stick to its top. Fusing the bow with a material is done by pressing ZR in fuse mode, and the arrows work like they currently do. The fact bow fusing combos with arrows fusing is also balanced by the fact your bows keep breaking. You might need to tweak how many bows one finds in the average monster holdout, but it's now a real choice of whether spamming a barrage of arrows from the sky is actually viable with just one bow before it breaks. Now you have players actually looking for bows in the game and not absent-mindedly picking up one royal bow after the other. That interactive element of having to tape together your swords, your spears, and now your shields and your bows will make the entire combat progression feel like an actual climb to an arsenal in a state worthy of your current progress and survival skills. The gloom is eating away at the belief of the people of Hyrule, but you stand strong with your Lizzle String Zonite bow, Gliok Guts Field Royal Shield, and Lino Bow Broadsword that still doesn't do anything because I can't think of what fusing a bow to a sword would meaningfully do, so whatever. Bam! Engaging, complete, not partially improved, but entirely semi-overhauled progression method. So why does the UI still suck? This might sour the video by being a part I have no idea how to improve, but like, so much of every encounter in this game involves so much pausing. It feels like a Game Boy Zelda game with how few buttons you can use at the same time to do something different. Say I want to do a simple thing. Hit an enemy a few times, knock it down for a second or two, and while they're down, switch to an Ice Rod, freeze them before they can charge an attack, and then switch to a Korok Front Guster and blow them off the cliff, like the Donkey video. Well, I would be stupid to do that in this game because I can instantly freeze time and pull out my Guster and just do that with zero threat to my time because I have two different pause to switch weapon menus in this game. And if I did want to roleplay a bit and mix my weapons, I have to pause and go to the grocery store every time and pick up my weapon from a list that has less sorting methods than last game. Seriously, why did they add sorting labels and then remove sorting methods from the game? I get why you can't favorite weapons, but like, can't they have rows and columns? Why is it just one row of everything and I can't like sort up and down between regular melee swords, elemental weapons, spears and longswords? I'm moving left and right using a control stick, not like the triggers, so it definitely makes sense to go up and down as well. Why do I need to go through the entire milk and dairy product section to get to the electric little spear I actually needed from the bread aisle? Every time I want to shoot an arrow in this game, I have to do mental math in my head of whether I care enough about beating the enemy fast to equip a high damage horn to my arrow, or just play the fucking game and finish the action I started of aiming my bow and then shooting. And Fuse was halfway in the right direction. Again, I said this earlier. The fact fusing wasn't done from a menu and instead performed in real time in the overworld made for some really fun moments. It made it more organic. Why go one foot into Souls-like and make your player character dodge and flip and run and carry shields and parry, but then not include that core Souls-like mechanic of having to find the right in-world time to change your gear and heal back up? The game is still super easy to break by just immediately pausing and eating 28 of 640 apples every time you take any amount of damage, and you'll just never die. Why not at least make weapon switching happen in real time, save for flurry rushes and other stuff? Make it hard, make it worth it. Make the weapons breaking mid-combat have more weight by giving me a non-zero amount of time where I don't have a weapon equipped, because right now, the very frame my weapon or shield or bow break, I can just hit one button and instantly have my next best one in hand, no actual consequences. So, Fuse was a wonderful beginning of an improvement to Zelda combat since Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom is really good, but I would have enjoyed its combat system more if they finished adding Fuse to all facets of the game and made my fragile weapons actually matter. Thanks for watching.